Okay, so we move to our next speaker, representing DMV Polish and talking on Polish LNG and bio-LNG Poland, which is Adam Niklewski. Adam, please, thank you.
Still good morning. First of all, thank you for inviting the Polish LNG and bio-LNG platform, and by the same time, for me in person representing DNV as well. I'm truly happy that my presentation will be just after Pavel, because I believe it will supplement itself, even though we didn't plan it. But before I start, I'd like to present you some gadget, some exhibit. I believe most of us remember the movie Back to the Future, and here was a biomass reactor. It was 30 years ago. As Pavel said, 20 years ago, LNG started, yeah? So there was a vision. And what I'd like to state at the beginning, the future is now. So let's keep it, exhibit, as a symbol. So what I try to present you in this short 20 minutes, it's a very condensed time. I would like today to speak not only about the LNG and the bio-LNG, but about its context in a transition in transport and in general energy transition. And maybe before I start with the slides, because slides is just a background, I have a pleasure yesterday to participate in a very interesting presentation, let's say. It was not a conference, rather cycles of meetings, and that was about the ESG. What really made a big impression on myself was a presentation how we'll develop the global environment in different scenarios regarding the global warming effect. As you may know, if not, the Paris Agreement said 1.8 is a target. If not, it will be difficult for us. Now, in principle, with all the efforts, global efforts, looks like we're aiming 2.5. But at 4, it's end of the world. That's the slide which really scared me yesterday. And what is important, at certain increase of the global temperature, even though we try to make an effort to make a crash stop, the full blackout of the world infrastructure and economy, that will be a spiral which will do not bring any long the effect. So what I want to highlight, let's say, the decarbonization journey is a must. And in this decarbonization journey, the collaboration, that will be the real new fuel. Pavel mentioned a lot about the energy. Yes, energy and energy carrier, that's the topic. The question only is in which form or which derivatives. So I will start with the transport, because I believe it's something which touch most of us, even not in personal transportation, the delivery of goods, things. The world doesn't exist nowadays without transportation of goods. So 25% of global CO2 emission, or let's say it's yeah, the CO2 factors depends if we are talking about the direct CO2, methane, sleep, equivalence. I'm sorry, I'm not the natural English speaker. So the transportation is a 25%. And what, based on research of, first of all, DNV in this case, the vehicle fleet will grow from 1.2 billion to 2 billion vehicles. Passenger flights will increase by 130%, and cargo ton miles at sea will expand by 35%. So the question is, if we have increase in each area, if it's possible to accommodate that growth with reducing the emission. So here, I'd like to present you a couple of different ways of transportation and different scenarios for decarbonize this one. So definitely aviation and 7 ocean shipping, maritime shipping, transportation, it's the hardest one to be excluded from using the fossil fuels or its substitutes like biodiesel or bio LNG. The others, the other corner, let's say, the passenger cars, the future is definitely, I believe, we all together already agreed that we are going to the electrification of this short distance transportation. But for the cargo goods, depends on the distance. There is an option to use, of course, electro trucks, but from the other point, one more time, if we are talking about the long range, there is a limitation of using electricity because of the capacity of the batteries, the time for charging, etc. And then there is an option for alternatives. It was really nice that Pavel also mentioned that there is not only bio, but as well synthetic. In my presentation, it will be called rather biofuels of 4th generation, but that is a close future, I believe. So I'm very often joking that in a close future, that will be not Polish LNG and bio LNG, but as well as LNG, RLNG, etc., etc. But we'll need to find some common sense. So, as you can see, of course, we need to do a lot of effort for the energy transition, but we need to be as well very reasonable and choose the, let's say, dedicated source of energy, the energy carrier, which will fit the best both the kind of a transportation and our future decarbonization goals. Regarding the LNG and gas itself, 5% of the total gas supply was used by the transportation, and this is mainly by the shipping because of LNG fuel vessels. Nowadays, let's say, it's the definitely #1 of the alternative fuels with an option for blending with the bio LNG. More than 1,000 vessels already LNG ready or LNG propelled. The next one is, let's say, methanol with a couple. I would say that will be the strong second position, much higher than the hydrogen. There is just a couple of vessels, but in fact they are electro-propellered because they use the fuel cells and transform hydrogen for the electricity. So as you can see, for the long distance, because of the energy density, definitely we need to look for the solution which are applicable with the volume of the fuel tanks combined with the cargo space are needed. And for the aviation, that will be as well a little bit more on the next slides. It looks like the most difficult to decarbonize in a simple way. So the electrofuels or synthetic aviation diesel will be the option. But as you can see, for the road transportation, definitely electricity will increase. So, maybe just a couple of basic facts and numbers. So I will support myself with the notes because all of these numbers is not too easy to be strict. So for the fossil fuels, the reduction of oil is strongest in the road transport from 85 exajoules today to 42 exajoules in 2050. So it's a half, more than the half, and reducing its share from 91% to 57%. In aviation, what was already mentioned, oil is virtually flat to 2050, but the growth in air transport is covered by the biofuels and e-fuels that we predict it will be starting from 2030. For the electricity, share in transport will grow from 1% today to 4% in 2030, but up to 23 in 2050. We are talking globally. I know from European perspective, we may see a little bit different picture, but we need to look globally. Regarding the biofuels, now we are talking about the first generation. That's what we can see even by refueling our cars with this E5 to E10. This is also a kind of a biofuels content, so don't forget about this, about it. But in future, definitely we will look for other alternative, more advanced biofuels. Regarding the hydrogen, I'm always a little bit confused to talk about the hydrogen on a society interested in natural gas mainly, or at least I believe so. That's the main point of interest. Of course, what from the, let's say, the most important fact, we need to have available green hydrogen if you want to talk about the true decarbonization. And in fact, at least what I can see, let's say it's my personal comment, hydrogen, it will be important substrate for the other synthetic fuels. But first of all, it's need to be available after all. So there is a chance that e-fuels in aviation will grow to 30% share, but as a substrate of the synthetic process in the production. But maybe I shall a little bit speed up. Biofuels as a, let's say, a big basket, because when we are talking about the biofuels, it means that we talk not only about the direct substitute for a diesel, but we also talk about the bio-LNG. So, as I said already, it's extensively used in transport nowadays, but it will be grow and grow, except the Middle East and North Africa most of the regions have a mandate to biofuel blending. But there is something as the result. There will be, in a close future, that will be a big, let's say, competition between maritime transport and aviation transport to gain access to sustainable biofuel composites. Because we cannot change one-to-one nowadays without sufficient agricultural area which will be dedicated only for production fuels. So please bear it in mind. Biofuels in maritime transport, that's a very interesting case. I already told that LNG is number one of the, let's say, future-ready energy carriers, but there is a lot of owners who truly believe they will not need to do big retrofits and exchange one-to-one to the bio-MGO or bio-HVO. There is a biomethanol on the horizon, what I have already mentioned. A big key player, Maersk, invest in a methanol propellered fleet, but on the same time, they invest in their own production of the methanol. So one more time, availability is a key. And one more time, what I'd like to highlight, competition for feedstock increases and will increase as low availability of sustainable biomass is a fact. For aviation, maybe not to concentrate too much, maybe just to recall, we expect that from 2030 there will be a blending with the e-fuel. Depends if there will be available. From this quick overview on the transition in transportation, I would like as well to mention and review a little bit the regulation acts, and at the end show you the trends about the energy needs. So there was a lot about the Europe, Indian subcontinent, and Sub-Saharan Africa, so that I will concentrate and present a short review. So for the, let's say, our home Europe, of course, we have the full package for 55. We have Repower EU statement. What is important, 35 BCM of biomethane, a big challenge. We really count on it, especially from Poland perspective, with our potential. But of course, there is in the background Renewable Energy Directive RED II, and RED III is on the horizon. We have the EU emission trading scheme for transportation. There will be one more slide when we concentrate a little bit more on the maritime sector. But from the other side, we have the India subcontinent, who has a biofuel blending target, 20% from 2030. So we are not, of course, Europe is in forefront, but we are not the only one. So more specifically on the maritime sector, from the global point of view, of course, IMO ambition, as we call it, so reduction by 50% by 2050. Of course, we get this energy efficiency calculation, EEDI, EXI. Of course, we have the carbon intensity indicator, somebody calls index measure. Of course, we have very close the Fuel EU Maritime and the ETS. So that's from the European, let's say, point of view. So ETS will be, shipping will be included from 2024. This is already decided. There is a possible taxation, not yet decided, but the work is ongoing. So in North America, as for America, of course, the money motivates the best. So Inflation Reduction Act, which provides clean fuel production incentiveness as a tax credits. We have, of course, the local. California is very, let's say, active with their local acts. But from the other point, China is not really left behind. So they have maritime environment protection law as well, providing financial support and preferential policies to enable the upgrading and operation of shore power supply facilities, and as well as building of vessels powered by clean and new engines. So as you can see, whole world as global try to look for our future. So at the end, just a couple of basic graphs and data for subcontinent Indian. The population by 2030 will grow for up to 30%, and energy consumption will be double. And as you can see in the mix, there will be not only the clean energy, but of course, for the natural gas and for the oil, it will be substituted and blended in a close future. Looking further for a sub-Saharan region, the population even grow up to 70%, and as well, energy consumption will be double. And I will support a little bit what was given by Mr. Paweł Warszycki. 57% of population has no access to electricity. And what we expect in 2050, it will be lowered down to 4% only. So there is a big gap to fill in. And of course, as you can see, that's very interesting. The bioenergy source here, one of the main composition elements in energy mix. So, and a little bit about the Europe, because that's very interesting. For the population, looks like we will be rather stable, but we will need less energy. And not because, coming to my first slide, that we will decrease and lower down operation. No, we will be more effective, and we will be definitely much higher decarbonized. But energy efficiency, that will be the truly important key factor for the Europe. And energy mix, as you can see, which is very, yeah. here are the fossil fuels. So that will be just a 20-something% of energy mix. And because some of the industry simply need fossil fuels for their production, like cemetery, glass production, etc. There is no option to fully cut off, but we can blend. So from my side, I'd like to thank you. If you have any question, I'm open to answer.
Any questions? But if not here, maybe at lunchtime it could be possible. Yeah, correct. Oh, you've got Mr. Pavel has one.
Oh, well. Adam, thank you very much. I do really appreciate that you are here because you're looking at the topic, the subject of energy consumption, energy mix, the future from, let's say, helicopter perspective. And I would like to pass to you a question coming from Michael. How to cope our, let's say, wishes, greening, decarbonizing, different systems, different, let's say, careers and economy. Because we all know that the the price will not drop down. Or maybe. So what is your perspective if you are talking about, of course, Justin was complaining about increase of the price, but we still can afford, but not many people cannot. What is your perspective? What do you think is the best solution and how this could be solved?
Okay, so I will answer a little bit tendency, I would say. But first of all, from economical point of view, the competition is always better for economy and for the, let's say, people life in principles. But from the other point, if you are talking about this big change for production of hydrogen from renewables, if we are talking about the production of biomethane or liquefied bio-LNG, if we are talking about the biodiesel, if we are talking about substrates for synthetic fuels like CO2, carbon capture and storage, and hydrogen and combined for the methane and other alternatives, derivatives like methanol, definitely we need to forget what we, let's say, get used to, that we have a big power plants in one location that will be the destruction of the energy production and the energy consumption as well, distracted. That will be the key solution for that, because there will be no big biomethane power plants. They will be limited in their capacities. So, and the substrates has to be delivered somehow. So it cannot be like some of you living in Poland can remember the old times. Oh, let's build it here. But here is a lake. And there is no problem. The lake will be there. No. Now it has to be logic. Where's the substrates? There is the production. Where's the consumption? There is delivery. So it will be totally upside down. Looking even nowadays, very common view, yes? Windmills, solar panels. It's not in one central place. It's everywhere. So destruction of the energy production and destruction in a way of consumers, which will truly buy what they need, nothing else.
Okay, and Second question from my side, because I didn't address my presentation directly to many of our guests. I hoped the technology was some kind of transferred to the people. But we've got here many representatives of public authorities from this region. What would, you are a smart guy coming from the largest certifying authority, doing excellent reports and forecasts, and quite slightly provocative. What would you say is the future for local authorities here in this region?
I would say the regulation gap is the thing which we'll need to fill in at first. So it's a tricky question, but yes, it is. There is a gap, and I would say in each of the area, starting from the LNG, like bunkery LNG, looking for the hydrogen, not only strategy, but the implementation acts itself. So, and it is on each level, I would say. If we are talking, first of all, I'm from marine sector, yes? So even IMO globally don't have already the certain acts for hydrogen or ammonia. I didn't mention today ammonia because there was a topic nowadays, let's say it's not on the pedestal as it used to be 2 years ago. But yes, there is a big global and on each level, regional, local, big regulation gap. So just finger crossed to make it quicker and smart. Thank you.